Well, good morning and gratitude day, everyone. Thank you for joining me at the Group for Change and our next episode of Dream Big Dreams. And for those of you who know me, you know that I have this uh, not just obsession, but I'm always thinking about living your life on purpose and living your ideal life and creating the type of life that you want and dreaming big dreams. That's what it's about. Well, today you're in for a special treat. For some of you, it might be some kind of radical ideas. For some of you, you might have heard bits and pieces of it, but now you're going to get it explained like you probably haven't heard it explained before. Today, my guest is a great friend. I've actually used him as a coach. And man, my career, my life just took off. Well, he is a former professor of communication at Capilano University in North Vancouver, Canada. He is the author of Mind, Time, and Power. It's a book that describes the results of 30 years of research into how our thoughts and our feelings shape our lives. He is also a co-author with Brian Tracy of the best-selling book, Cracking the Success Code on Amazon. He specializes in coaching and training people to reach higher level of personal leadership, personal effectiveness, sales success for a lot of you out there, and also results creation. And that's what we all want. Everyone, welcome my guest, Anthony Hamilton. Gratitude Day, Anthony. Glad you could be here.
Well, thank you, Charles. Thanks for that warm introduction. It's great to see you. We've been friends for some years now, and it's nice to see this new podcast of yours taking off. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Thanks very much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. It's a blessing. It's a gratitude for me. Now, before I get in, I was reading something that someone wrote regarding your some of your training. And it says, I am learning to dream my own personal dream, to imagine living in a tailor-made future instead of one right off the assembly line. And man, does that resonate.
So I love that. I love that quote. I remember I did a workshop some years ago now, decades ago, actually. And she was in my workshop. She was a singer, is a singer, I guess. I haven't talked to her, for a lot of years now. But I remember when she gave me that feedback on my workshop, I thought, man, that is perfect. Dreaming my own personal dream rather than one off the assembly line. I thought, man, she just nailed it. That's what it's all about.
Man, for sure, for sure. Well, you say, and believe me, I've known you and you've given me some information and some tips and some more ideas. Well, you say the key to success is how you deal with your past. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, it's interesting, we think of memory as kind of a recording of the past. At least when I was growing up, that's what I assumed memory was, right? And but over the years, going through some experiences I had a dream that I saw my future in advance, as I mentioned to you before. And over the next few years, that dream started to come true. More and more pieces of it came true. As a matter of fact, another big piece of it came true just a few years ago. So this idea of getting information from the future, which always, to me, kind of intrigued me, right? I mean, these magicians, Merlin and Nostradamus, and even in the Bible, prophets, they seem to have this connection to the future where they were able to say what was going to happen and what was going on, right? Mm-hmm. And so after this dream, I started researching, what's the connection? There must be some logical explanation. And what I realized was that, calling our memory something unique is really a big mistake, because what we call memory is it's just a way of thinking, right? I mean, when I think about the past, if you say to me, what did you do last night? I can say, well, I was watching, one of my favorite TV shows. So we call that a memory, right?
Okay.
But what I came to call that is a connection. So I'm connected now to that past situation where I was home here watching TV, right? I can do the same thing if you ask me about high school. High school was a long time ago for me, but again, I can kind of connect, just like a telephone call connects. Here we are over the internet now, we're connecting, right? So the information is going from me to you and from you to me. So we have this connection and the information goes both ways. So what I realized was that in that dream, I had some information coming to me from the future, and it was just a thought, right? It was just an idea in my mind. I mean, it was just you could call it a dream, you could call it precognition, you can call it kind of a knowing. I mean, there's many terms for it, but really it's just thoughts coming to me from the future, right?
Oh.
And so this idea that memory is a connection rather than memory being a recording, which we normally think of it, right? So we grew up, at least I grew up, with the idea that, I have information about my past, but I don't have any information about my future because my future hasn't happened yet, right? So if memory is a recording, then of course I can't have a recording of the future because it hasn't happened yet. But if we think of it as a connection, or if we think of it just as a way of thinking, then obviously I have information about my future and my past simultaneously, right? I know where I'm going to sleep tonight. All of us know that. I mean, a lot of us know where we're going to go on vacation as soon as this COVID situation ends, right? And so we have a lot of information already about the future, and we have a lot of information about the past. Now, the problem is that many people, and I was certainly one of these for many years, my thoughts about the past were negative, right? I had these negative experiences with my parents, with the church, in school, right? And so whenever I thought about these experiences, I felt bad, right? So the information that was coming to me through these memories, you might say, made me feel bad. Well, what happens is that when we learn, and this is a piece of information that maybe a lot of people haven't thought about, we learn our feelings just the same as we learn our language, right? So all the feelings that we can feel, we learn to feel them. And so the negative feelings that we might have from the past, they actually block the positive information that's coming to us, right? Okay. If you have negative thoughts and bad feelings about high school or whatever, then you don't remember the positive situations because they're kind of blocked by these negative feelings, right? So we have to learn to deal with the past. We have to learn to sort of, in our mind, go back into that past. And you can do it easily just by imagining yourself, watching a movie of yourself in the past, any past situation that some of your listeners might have negative feelings about, negative events, right? And just run a mental movie of yourself, watching yourself go through this negative experience. And what you'll find is that it starts to change. And if you look for the positive things in that experience, whether it's high school or positive experiences with your parents, positive experiences in school or with the church, you start to notice more and more positives. And what happens is your perception, because it's all about perception, man, perception and reality, they're the same thing. So when you start to perceive your past a little differently and you start to look for the good feelings in the past, you start to notice more and more of them, and that opens up the possibility then of recognizing those positive feelings coming to you from the future.
Mm.
So that's what I mean when I say, you really have to, if you want to have a future that's more positive than your past, it's difficult, man, because those negative feelings from the past are going to block the blessings from the future.
Gotcha.
But if you can learn to deal with your past, and as a matter of fact, you have no choice. If you want to live a better life, you've got to have a better past, which means you got to reframe, change the way you think about some of those past events. And as you do that, it opens up the possibility of feeling better in the present. Right away, you feel better. And number two, you notice more positive things possible in the future. So dealing with your past, and of course, if you think about your past, everything that happened to me from the time I was born until today, right, talking to you, it's in my past. So the word past really means your life, right? Gotcha. So that's what I mean, is that, when you start to learn to feel better about some of the things that you didn't feel good about, you start to see the good things in them, you start to feel better about your past, then your past actually changes. I mean, the energy changes. Now, the situation, the event is not going to change, right?
Right.
I mean, if I failed something, or if I had an argument with a teacher in high school, that argument's not going to go away, but certainly the way I look at it is going to change. So that's what I mean about changing your past. When you start to heal your past, changing your past, then it opens up the possibility of getting more good things in the future, because it seems more natural, right? I had a nice past, I got a good present, my future should be good too,
Wow. Amazing. Well, if you're just joining me right now, this is the episode Dream Big Dreams, and my guest is best-selling author and success coach Anthony Hamilton. So feel free, if anything resonates with you, to go ahead and comment below. Feel free to share this video and share it again. And if you have a pen and paper, take notes. I tell you, some of this information, most of this information can be mind-blowing, but it takes you to another level. Now, Anthony, okay, I understand that you just finished your audiobook version of Mind, Time, and Power.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I've listened to a chapter or two over and over again. Can you tell me more about this?
Yeah, well, I wrote the book. I mean, the book started when I had this dream, right? I mean, I had this dream at 10 years old where I saw my future, and it took me 20 years to come to this understanding that I was just talking about, that your mind is connected to the past and the future equally. And what we call memory is just really a kind of thinking, right? And goal setting, visualizing or dreaming big dreams, as you always teach, it's just thinking about the future in a certain way, right? So we're talking about thinking, and thinking, connects the past and the future. So when I wrote my book, I started writing it when I was like around 32. So 32, I had this big aha insight, right? Which made me realize that, what I saw in this dream, which was myself at the age of 32. And at the age of 32, I had this realization that what I had was a memory in reverse. It's like when I'm 32, you talk to a 32-year-old, there's no surprise that the 32-year-old has information from the 10-year-old, right? You can say, what were you doing when you were 10 years old? Where were you living, and who were your friends, and that kind of thing. Every 32-year-old probably, or most 32-year-olds, they have information from the 10-year-old, right? Well, once I realized that thinking was a connection, in other words, memory is a connection, goal setting is also a connection. We could talk about that in a few minutes, perhaps. But when you're setting big dreams and big goals, and you imagine yourself in the future, realizing and enjoying those goals, then there's a connection there. And using that connection, you're able to get clear ideas about what to do to bring that dream of yours into physical reality for yourself, right? So when I wrote this book, that's what the book was about. It was about a new model of the mind. And here's the book right here, Mind, Time, and Power, right? Mind, Time, and Powers, Austin Powers. So
Yes.
when I wrote the book, that's what I was talking about, was this new model of consciousness that treated memory and goal setting basically the same. I mean, they're both just different kinds of thinking, right?
Mhm.
And so the book is great, and I've got a lot of positive feedback on it. A lot of people love the book. And I've done workshops on it now for, since I was in my 30s. So that's, basically 40 years ago. But when I was inspired to do the audio book, it brought it to a whole new level, man, because, people tell me, and I can understand, that some of the concepts in the book are a little tricky, they're a little complicated, man. Thinking of your mind like a time machine, or thinking of your past or your future like a telephone call from your past self or your future self, that's a new way of thinking.
Yes.
But listening to the audio book, it's painless. You can listen to it over and over and over again. And also, because I read it myself, I wouldn't let anybody else read it, obviously, but reading it, because I had all this experience of talking about this for so many years, I have a lot of passion and a lot of feeling that I can put into that recording. So I think that the audio version of my book is actually the best thing I've ever done, and it's a little over 7 hours long.
Mhm.
So there's lots of information in there about healing your past, transforming your emotions. There's a huge section about goal setting, visualizing your goals, using your goals as a source of information. Once you know what the dream is, as you talk about, you have a big dream, then you just say, okay, well, what's the next step? How can I get closer to that dream? And that question, your mind will automatically answer, and it'll say, well, talk to this person, or read this
Yes.
book, or watch Charles Ellis's podcast, and get some ideas. So one of the things that I teach people, one of the fundamental principles is that your mind will answer any question that you ask. And of course, a lot of people, they ask questions like, what's wrong with me? How come I can't win? Why do I get all the punishment? How come I've had such a negative life? Well, of course, if you ask that question, that's the information that comes through, right? But if you ask a better question, like, how can I improve my life today? Your mind will say, well, do this, start doing a few sit-ups, cut out ice cream, read another book, so your mind will tell you what to do when you ask the question.
Wow. Anthony, you're absolutely right. Matter of fact, that was I think I was in one of your little workshops or group, and my group, everyone that was in there went on to accomplish and to fulfill those goals and wishes that they had.
Right.
And I even I think I had a meditation that you gave me, a morning and an evening meditation, and these are some years ago, I still use now.
Right.
And since then, I mean, that was before I think you knew that I had an idea of writing a book. And now I'm about to release my fourth book, and and another online course. I have a couple of those out there. So, and I always call them the fire within. So I want to ask you this. What about the fire within? Could you give us some thoughts and some, about building and maintaining motivation?
Yes, that's right. Motivation, man, that's one of the 5 laws of success. I talk about this in my workshop. The whole, my framework is magic, right? Mental magic. So
Okay.
we can make our goals real. That's magic. I mean, we can take a thought from our mind and we can make it physical reality, right?
Correct.
And of course, the problem is that this is not really a problem, I guess, but it happens so easily and so effortlessly that we forget that we do it. I mean, every time I go to the store to buy a loaf of bread, I've made my dream come true. I had a thought in my head, I want a loaf of bread, and now I have a loaf of bread, right? So that's the way the mind works. When you ask the mind, how can I get a loaf of bread? Your mind will say, well, walk to the store, right? So this is what we do as creative people, creative individuals, we make our dreams come true. Problem is, of course, that only 3% of people have dreams or are goal setters, right? Most people have sort of, shall we say, given up, pardon me, because, maybe they're coming from the same paradigm that I was coming from before, saying, my past was this way. I want my future to be that way, but I can't imagine it, So the key to motivation then is, first of all, you need to know what you want, right? And so, just getting back to the magic again, I'll just finish that thought. So magic, MAGIC, those are the 5 principles or the 5 laws or the 5 habits that we need. M is motivation, A is attitude, G is goals, I is using your imagination, and C is consciousness, right? So those are the 5 laws. So motivation is the first one. Now, each of us, you, me, and all your listeners here, must become self-motivated. There's only 2 kinds of motivation. There's self-motivation, and there's motivation by other people, right? But nobody's going to motivate you to achieve your goals. I mean, if you're working for somebody, they're going to try and motivate you to sell more cars or work more or be more productive, but that's their goal, right?
Right.
So the problem is external motivation is motivation by somebody else, and they want to motivate you to do what they want you to do to achieve their goal. But if you have a goal, if you have a dream and you want to achieve it, then you've got to motivate yourself. And so the way you do that is, number one, make a decision of what you want. And it can be quite general, it can be quite general. It doesn't have to be specific in the beginning. It gets more specific later, but so you decide what it is you want, and then you make a list. And I'm a great believer in the value of lists, because when you start listing things, you get 5, 10, 15, 25 ideas on a sheet of paper, and you read that thing over, it starts to build on itself. So you make a list of all the benefits of achieving your goal. How is my life going to be better when I achieve this goal? So that's part of motivation, is that you're looking at the benefits. The other side of it is you're looking at what it's going to cost you if you don't achieve your goal. The disappointment, the frustration, watching other people achieve their goals and you're not achieving yours,
Exactly.
So that feeling of frustration, that's one of the negatives, right? If you don't achieve the goal. So what you do is you build up the positives and you build up the negatives too, because the negatives you want to avoid. And when you have enough of a push against failing and an attraction towards winning, you're going to automatically start to get motivated to take some steps towards achieving your goal. So that idea of motivation really comes down to, what's it worth to me? What are the benefits to me? And not only me, but I tell people to have goals and to think about themselves in 6 different areas of their life. So there's the physical life, mental life, spiritual life, family life, social life, and your financial life, right? So how's it going to benefit me physically, in my feelings and emotions and my health? How's it going to benefit my family? How's it going to benefit my society, right? Is it going to benefit me spiritually? If I'm doing good work, and I'm helping other people, then I deserve to be given grace too, right?
Correct.
So getting into a spiritual flow is a good idea. How's it going to benefit me financially? How am I going to be able to help my kids, help my parents, help my other members of my family? Am I going to be able to contribute to society, maybe making donations to a hospital or the cancer fund or whatever is important to me, right? So when you think about those benefits in all 6 different areas of your life, pretty soon you're going to get motivated to start taking action. And of course, action, that's the link between the mental and the physical. So your dream becomes physical when you take action on it.
Wow. I know this stuff, and making a list, and whether it's, for the mental and the financial and the spiritual and the social, all of that, just let you know, this big binder that I have started with you.
Right.
It was a couple of pages.
Exactly.
And my list has grown from this length to that length, and it's still growing. And just doing it gives me some motivation. It piques something. It sparks something. It kindles that fire that I have, inside.
Exactly.
So for you guys, if you're just now joining me, today my guest is Anthony Hamilton, the author of the book Mind, Time, and Power, co-author of Cracking the Success Code. And man, that's it right there.
There we go.
If you have questions, please put them in the comments. Anthony will see them. I'll see them. I'll pass them on. And we still have some more things to go. Okay? So just remember, if you have a pen, pad, take notes, use your phone if you need to, a tablet or whatever, because this information right here has helped a lot of people. Well, Anthony, I'm going to ask you something else. Of all the techniques that you've taught, and you've taught some techniques throughout the years, what's your favorite?
Yeah, that's a great question, Charles. I'm glad you asked. One technique that I use with people, I use it, I've taught it to people in grade 2. I got asked by a teacher friend of mine to give a talk on positive thinking to her grade 2 class. So these kids were like 6, 7 years old, right? So I taught them this technique and they loved it. I also taught it to seniors. Of course, I'm a senior now myself, but I was invited one day to give a talk on, positive thinking for seniors. And these were people that were like in their 80s, right? And so I taught them this technique and I use it all the time. And I teach it all the time. And as a matter of fact, I could probably do nothing else but teach this one technique, from now on. And it's what I call your past successes list. So it's dead simple. Here's what you do. You just take a sheet of paper, and you've done this, I know. But if for your listeners, take a sheet of paper and just write down some past successes. So anything that you feel successful when you think about it, that's a past success. So, graduating from high school, maybe going to college, getting a degree, buying your first car. It could be learning how to dance, learning a foreign language. It doesn't really matter. Anything that when you think about it, it makes you feel like, hey, that's successful. That's something I've done in the past, right? Now, when you think about that, this idea that your mind is a connection or thinking is a connection, what happens is you start to connect with that time when you graduated or when you bought that car or when you got that great job, or when you asked that girl out and she said yes, whatever it might be for you. You start thinking about that, you kind of connect with that time in the past and you feel the energy, right? So we have 5 senses, physical senses. Well, we have 5 non-physical senses too. So we have an inner sense of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, listening, smelling, And so when you put your mind back in that situation where you're having a success, right? What happens is you start to feel successful. Just let that feeling come in, and what happens is it reminds you that you have success energy that's available for you to tap into, right? Anytime. You can feel successful anytime. Now, this is such a magical thing because most of us think, well, if I want to feel successful, the only way that I can feel successful is to go out and do something. Like if I apply for a job and I get I get that job, then I'm going to feel successful, right? Well, yeah, you might feel successful for an hour or a day or a week or 2, but pretty soon you're going to slip back into your normal level because all of us have this kind of emotional set point, kind of like a thermostat, right? Mm-hmm. So that success energy is not going to last. And as a matter of fact, if you apply for the job and you don't get it, then you're going to feel like a failure, you know? So doing something, you know, like setting a goal and achieving a goal and expecting to feel successful when you do that, that has a bit of a double-edged sword about it because it may not work, right? But in the past, all of those past successes, they're still there. They're still available. My gardener's outside cutting the lawn here. He comes every Tuesday.
Cool.
So those past successes, they're always available. In other words, just by simply reading your past successes list, you get to feel successful anytime you want, right? And like everything, and of course, you're the perfect example of this because your favorite word, gratitude, right? Every time you think gratitude, you think of something that you're grateful for. So I said a few minutes ago that each of us learns how to feel all the feelings that we can feel. Every feeling that we have, you know, we learned it at some point. Well, when you learn to feel more successful, what happens is you start to recognize more success in your daily life, right?
Yes.
You see more successes in your past, which then changes the whole energy of your past because now there's more success energy there. It's easier to connect with success in the future because you can put the emotion of success to your goal, your dream. And when you put the image of the dream and the feeling of success, it just becomes much easier for you to motivate yourself to go and achieve that dream, right? So that past successes list, it's dead simple. Like I said, anybody can do it. You start off with 5 or 6 or 10 past successes, and they don't have to be big things. You know, they can be simple things like, you know, learning how to play checkers or, you know, learning how to drive a car.
Right.
You know, we've all had many more successes than we can even remember, right?
Yes.
But when you start reading your past successes list, you get into that success feeling. You remember more and more and more successes. I know Jack Canfield, you know, the chicken soup for the soul guy. He said he's got a past successes list that's over 1,000 things on it. Well, when you've got 1,000 things in your past that you can think about, you're going to feel successful all the time. And of course, that's what a lot of us do. So when you are thinking of your gratitude process, you feel grateful all the time because you have a gratitude list and you get lots of things that you are grateful for. So that past successes list, that's my favorite technique. I want to, you know, share that with the world as much as anything.
Wow. You know what? And yes, that past successes list, actually, when you told me about it and when you gave me an exercise, I think I had 5 successes. And I may not have a list like Jack right now, but I'm probably up there nearing 500 past successes. And you know how some people say, well, I didn't have any successes.
Right.
Man. And one of the things I started out was getting the garage clean some years back, because the garage was like packed, and my wife was like, we got to do something about this. And so finally, when it was over and done with, we keep working on it, that was a success. And you know, it wasn't just writing my book or starting a course. It was getting a certificate or getting a diploma. It was all kinds of things.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite sayings, you know, is, oh, here's another success, right?
Exactly.
It's like you saying gratitude, you notice gratitude. So, I mean, this morning I tied my shoelaces, you know, I was going out the door and my shoelaces came undone. So I tied my shoelaces and I said, another success, right?
Wow.
So those things, they have the same energy, right? I mean, people think, well, tying your shoelaces is no big deal. Well, it's not a big deal, except that it's something that you can do that makes you feel successful.
Yes.
And that's what we're after. We're after this feeling of success and happiness, you know, and self-esteem. When you read your past successes list, man, it's hard to feel down. Because,
right.
You know, as a matter of fact, I tell people, you know, you won't get depressed if you have a past successes list.
Love it. I love it. I love it. Anthony, you know what, man? It's amazing. You know what has happened in my life, you know, since I met you. It's amazing. And even though I keep going back and working in my binder, I go back, I read your book, and it gets clearer. And it's like, it's a never ending thing. And I'm like, oh, wow. Oh, now I get this. Oh, this is what Anthony was talking about. Now, I mean, up until today, I'm still doing it.
Right.
So my question is, for all my viewers out there and all the listeners, if one wanted to purchase your books, if they wanted you to, I don't know if you still coach people, if you have any courses out there, if you have any, whatever, how can people get in contact with you? All this information. Let us know.
Well, thanks, Charles. And I'm glad, I'm glad that you've been inspired a little bit, at least by me, because I've been inspired by you too. You're one of my students from years ago, but obviously, you've inspired me as much as I've inspired you. So yeah, it's true. This is a process, right? That's the thing that people seem to miss. It's a process. So every time you read your past successes list or add to it, it works, right? And it's not something that you do once and you forget about it. No, you add to it as you go. And so the easiest way to get a hold of me is mindtimeandpower.com. That's the website for my book. And on that website, I've got a number of recordings on there of interviews I've done. I'm going to add this one to there pretty soon. But there's links on there that they can go to Amazon and they can buy the ebook, they can get the audio book, or they can get the paperback of my book. There's also a link where they can put in their email address and they can get a free 1-month Mind Power course through that website. They can also contact me through the website. So that's basically the easiest way for people to follow me, to watch my YouTube channel. There's links on there to my YouTube channel. I've got over 100 videos on YouTube. So that mindtimeandpower.com, that's the central place for them to keep in touch with me.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Anthony, before we leave today, any tip, any words of wisdom, what can you leave our viewers with? Well,
the thing that I always tell people is that there's only one thing that's going to guarantee your success, and that's persistence. If you persist long enough, it'll work. If you have a goal, if you have a dream, like you teach people, have a dream and you're working on your dream, well, if you persist, you're eventually going to get there. And even if you don't get to the big one, you're going to have so many successes on the path to that dream that your life is going to change, and you're going to change, and your life is going to be better in the process of moving towards that dream. So if people have a dream or a goal that they may have given up on, I'm saying try it again. Write it down, think about it, visualize it, imagine yourself in that future reality, and get back on the bike, get back pedaling, get back working at it. Persistence is the key. It's never too late. A lot of the goals that I used to have when I was young that I gave up on, I resurrected them in my 30s, 40s, 50s, and even today. I'm doing things that that I may have tried to do in the past and wasn't able to do, and I'm doing them now in the present. So persistence is the key.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being on the show today, Anthony. I know our viewers have gotten some wonderful, extraordinary information. I know they're going to follow up on that. And viewers, you can contact me. You can contact Anthony by the links he told you about, the book he told you about. And hey, comment on this and he'll see it. And if he doesn't, I'll relay it over and make sure. So again, Anthony, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Charles. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a blessing. It's been gratitude, and that's gratitude with a capital G. So for all you guys out there, I want you to have a gratitude day. And remember, let that fire loose. Have a gratitude day.